let's just wait for this to kind of catch up. Yep, about to go through some changes. One second, guys. Everything looks like it's going good. Let's just wait for this to kind of catch up. Alright, I think that's it. Alright, well, welcome to Confab. My name is Kyle Lee. Today I wanted to talk to you guys about what's actually going on with Confab. Now, I originally had set up the schedule of the different content that I was going to be releasing all before that I started. Everything was done before I started recording. So what I ended up doing was I laid out content for Confab that I thought, that other viewers would want to see, and that I also thought would be interesting for me to do. So what ended up happening was that I finally gone through the week and I started recording, but the Monday and Tuesday thing in particular, the alter egos and the super suits, I did like doing those videos, but I didn't love doing those videos. Like it took up a lot of time for me to just go through and kind of research the heroes that I did. And even though I liked it, I liked doing it, it wasn't something that I loved doing. And then throughout the week that I was trying to do all the recording, I do recording every day. I didn't get to read as many comic books as I wanted. So the entire idea behind Confab is for us to have a conversation about comic books. Now, I wasn't reading any comics, so that's one downside. The content I didn't exactly love, and I didn't see myself doing it for the long run. It's not something that I really thought that I would really enjoy doing, like, a year or two down the road or anything like that. So I figured, you know what? There's channels out there that already provide content just like this, and you know what? If they already do it, then let them do it, because the channels that do content like alter egos and super suits, they have been reading comics for years and they know their stuff, and they don't have to actually research a lot of this stuff. They probably just know it off the top of their head, or at least that's what they make it seem like. So that's just kind of how I felt. And I am fairly new to comics, and that's all I really want to do is just read them and then talk about them. So I decided to revamp the schedule a little bit. And if you actually look in the description, there is an entirely, well, not entirely different, but I did go through the schedule one more time, and I think that this is going to be something that I'm going to be able to sustain and I'm going to love doing for quite some time. So let's start off at the top of the week on Sunday. I will be giving you guys live streams every Sunday in the mornings. I don't know exactly what time. I found out that I've been running into a lot of technical difficulties, especially the past couple of days, which is why I didn't upload a video. I didn't do the app check-in yesterday. I do have that video recorded, and it's all exported and ready to be uploaded, but the quality of the video is so bad. The choppiness, when I did the screen recording of my face, it was just so choppy. So I won't be giving you guys the app check-in this week. I'm gonna just wait until next week. I'm gonna redo the video, and I'm gonna put some time. I'm gonna give it like a day before. I'm gonna record it probably on Friday instead of on Saturday, and then let you guys see what it is as of Friday, but I'll release it on Saturday just so that I can make sure that the video is up to its quality. I don't want it to be all choppy or things like that, so I have to really look into the settings that I have for my screen recording. But going back to the live streams, I plan on doing the live streams about something like this, where wherever Confab plans to be going, if there's any changes in the content or anything like that, I'm gonna go over that. I'm also going to be talking about relevant topics. So that, like, what I originally had planned for Thursdays was the hotness, which would be like all the news for anything that is in the comic book world. But what I think would be better is that if I talked about some of those things live stream, so that we can all interact on them and have a big conversation on that type of stuff. So I'll be talking about the channel. I'll be talking about news stuff, and any other events or topics that I really want to do, but they don't really fit into my current schedule, like with the reading lists, as you'll see, or the reviews or anything like that. So that's probably where I'm going to do my side content on things that are more relevant and here and now type stuff, the news pretty much. Moving down, we go into Mondays, which is Indie Comic Review. So, as you might have seen last week, Indie Comic Review, and this is actually going to be the case for Mondays and Wednesdays now. So, the reason that I'm doing Indie Comic Review twice a week is because that's the thing that I got the most feedback on. Obviously, it was mostly feedback from the authors and the artists of the book that I did, which was Penguins versus Possums, which was also a pretty good book. But that's what I got the most feedback on. I was interacting on Twitter, and the feedback seemed very positive, and I liked doing it. I got to read a comic. I got to talk about it, what I liked about it, what I didn't like about it, and I got feedback for that, and it was kind of cool, and I liked it. So that's the thing that I wanted to overall end up doing, was to interact with people about comics that I enjoyed, or even if I didn't enjoy it, still interact with people on that specific comic or comics. So that's why I'm moving to Indie Comic Review twice a week. I really wanted to do one again after I already did the first one on Wednesday, so I recorded that one probably like on Tuesday, and when I was releasing it, I was like, man, I really want to do another one of these, but it doesn't fit in the schedule right now. So I figured, you know what, if that's something that I like doing, that's what I'm gonna do. I really want to provide you guys with great content, but I also have to do what I like doing, or else you guys won't be receiving content for a Comic Confab at all. So that's what's most important to me. It may not be what you're usually used to, where you get like things like why why Batman does this, or Superman is versus something, or like something like that, something that you guys would see from all the better YouTube comic book stars. So I want to provide something a little bit different, because I don't feel like I'm at that level. I don't feel like I would ever be at the level to provide content the way that YouTube channels like Comics Explained, Comic Storian, Comic Pop. I don't think I'd be able to provide you guys with content like that. Comic Sync. There's a lot of them, but I just want to provide you guys with content that I think that I'm good at doing. And like I said, it all comes back down to conversation. That's what I want to have conversations about, and I want to read comics, so that's what I want to do. So keeping that in mind, as you'll be able to see in the new schedule, Tuesdays and Thursdays are dedicated to reading lists. Now Tuesdays will be Marvel Unlimited reading lists, and I do this because I read all my comics digitally, except for the ones that I picked up at was it Comic Con? Yeah, Stan Lee's Comic Con. And here and there I'll buy like a actual physical comic if I feel like going to the comic book store and hanging out for a little bit. So I do all my comics through Marvel Unlimited, and I think that's the most viable option for a lot of people, because especially beginners that are barely jumping into the comic book world. These unlimited services let newbies catch up and read great content and see what they actually like, but it doesn't break the bank, because at $3 to $5 per comic, that does get very expensive, and you don't get to read as much, and it's kind of financially hard to go through something like that. If you really like 10 different comics, and you go to the you can go to the comic store and they all release on the same day, that's $30 that week. And then if there's 10 more different comics that you like coming out next week, that's another 30 different comics, or another $30. So that's why I'm doing that, because I don't want to break the bank with comics. I do pick up some of the newer ones here and there, especially like DC Rebirth, which are probably the comics that I buy the most. But I read more Marvel because of Marvel Unlimited, so all I have to do is wait 6 months, which is usually the same wait time that some people wait for their trades to come out. And then I can read some of the newest stuff, and that's what I want to do. So the Marvel Unlimited reading list will be centered around obviously Marvel Unlimited if you're a subscriber to that service. And then what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be choosing probably a couple of different books that I'm going to say, hey, I'm going to read this book, this book, this book, and this book. And if you want to follow along, feel free. And then I'll probably do some type of review in the next week's episode, or some type of recap. And then also prescribe another set of comics to read for that list. And we can just have conversations about the comic books that we read. So it's going to be like it's going to be like a book club, but a comic book club. And that's originally what I had planned out for the podcast when I was doing podcasting. And I really enjoyed it because I was going through a lot of different comics, and I thought it was really cool. So that's what I'm going to be doing for that. And then Comixology is going to be probably the same, except Marvel Unlimited is issue based, and Comixology, they tend to have a lot of volumes. So I may choose like 1 or 2, maybe even 3 volumes a week for Comixology Unlimited, and prescribe that. So we'll have 2 different reading lists, and obviously you don't have to follow along with either one of them if you don't like them. But if you have one of the services, either Marvel Unlimited or Comixology Unlimited, or both, you'll be able to read along with me, and then whoever else is reading along that's following the channel, and we can all kind of have a conversation and be on the same page of what we're reading and have a relevant discussion, even though almost all these comics are fairly old. So so we have Marvel Unlimited on Tuesdays, Comixology Unlimited on Thursdays. As I said, the indie comic review, I spelled the thing wrong, but it's indie comic review on Wednesday. And then Fridays I am keeping Marvel versus DC, the encyclopedia face-off type videos that I've been doing, because I really like those. It puts you in a situation where you don't know who's gonna win, and you don't even know who you're gonna open up to. So what I've been trying to do is just try to make it the most fair fight as possible. And if I so far it seems to be pretty good. We had the Cabal versus who was it? The Rogues. So we had the Cabal versus the Rogues in the first week, and then last week we opened up to Cyclops, which he would have probably dominated DC. So I wanted to make it a more fair fight. So I put it Crossbones versus Captain Cold, which I thought was a really fair fight. And the poll on Twitter, the poll that I posted on Twitter, seemed to be pretty close for a little while. So I think you guys kind of agree that was a reasonable matchup, as opposed to Cyclops versus Captain Cold, where I think obviously Cyclops would have won, especially if he had Phoenix Force. So I'm going to be keeping the Marvel versus DC fights. That's something that I do like doing. I do have to research some of the characters because, like Crossbones, I didn't know that much about Crossbones. But it's something that I really like doing, and it's something that I like to talk about and kind of share my input, and then I get to also post a poll and see what you guys think, and it's a really cool experience. I really like doing the Marvel versus DC thing. And then last but not least, Saturdays is still going to be the app check-in. Like I said, I'm probably going to do the app check-in recordings on the day before, just so that I can make sure that the video is all working correctly. I do have to do some changes in the way that I record that video. I want to be able to show you guys the code, where it currently is at while I run it on the simulator, and then also be able to talk to you so you guys can actually see my face and you're not just seeing the desktop. So I have to find out a program that will be able to let me do that. And I want to also allow you guys to have more feedback on that, so I have to make sure that it's coming out consistently. If it's coming out inconsistently, then you guys probably may not follow up with the Confab app, and that's what I really want, is to hear some feedback on what you guys want out of a comic book community app. Last week I had talked about this. The Amino comic app is kind of what I'm aiming for. I want something like that, but I want it to be a lot cleaner, and then I also want it to be more interactive. Like I feel like that particular app isn't as popular, and I would like Confab to be the app that everybody says, you know what, if you read comic books, that's where you go to. So that's pretty much it. I'm just changing up the content. I wanted to do something like, just a recap, I wanted to do something that I love. Oh, what's going on, Mopey, the number one supporter of this channel. Got to give him a big shout out. Yes, let's see. Yeah, so I do like the Unlimiteds, both of them. Comixology and Marvel Unlimited. Um, yeah, and it helps to not break the bank. So that's pretty much what I want to do. And I do have a baby on the way, so I can't afford to go out and buy like 10 different comics, especially if they're Marvel. And Marvel comics have been going for about $4.99 lately, at least where I'm at. And it just seems like a pretty big expense just to keep up with some of these stories. So like I said, I wanna kind of do it towards some of the people that might be in a similar situation as me, and I want to make sure that they are able to read comics if they love comics, but not break the bank at the same time, and be able to catch up. So I'm gonna be going through things like on the podcast. I was going through one of the Comic Book Herald's suggested reading lists for Marvel, and I got up to Avengers Disassembled or something like that. But I'm going to start off probably with House of M. Probably gonna start with House of M and make my way up to current stuff, and then also once we make our way up to current, which is probably gonna take a while to do, probably start working on some of the different other reading lists. By then I'll have obviously a more in-depth knowledge of the Marvel universe, and then kind of see what everybody else wants to read too. And the same thing with Comixology. The great thing about Comixology is it gives you great it opens you up to a bunch of different genres. So that's one of the things that I really like about Comixology. And I think that's really important, because I think there's a comic book out there for everybody if somebody just gives it a chance to read a comic. I think there's a comic out there for everybody, especially if you do something like Comixology, where you get things outside of superheroes. I think the majority are, I might be wrong, but I would say probably the majority, or at least what I think in my head, the majority of people that read comics probably like superheroes. So that's what the mainstream media sees as comics. It's all about superheroes and Iron Man, Batman, Superman, things like that. When I think some of us know that it's not like that. You have different genres that have nothing to do with superheroes, and just some really great stories out there. So I think that'll help expose some people to the comic book world, and if it does, that's more people that we can talk to and have a great conversation and interaction with. But yeah, just a recap of where I'm going with this is just changing up the content, making sure that I do something that I do truly love. I like the content that I put out last week, but it wasn't something that I loved, and I think that other channels will do a better job at some of the things like alter egos and super suits and the stuff that I'm no longer going to be doing anymore. But hopefully I provide a good space for you guys to also talk about comics that we're all reading, have a little comic book club, get exposed to some of these indie comics, read something new, new genres with a Comixology, and then catch up on some of the Marvel universe with the Marvel Unlimited reading list, and then still have fun with the Marvel versus DC. If DC ever does get a DC Unlimited, I will be probably one of the first ones to jump on that bandwagon, and then swap out probably one of the indie comic review slots for DC Unlimited reading slots, because I really wish that they had that, but who knows what DC's gonna do. And hopefully they see that, hey, you know what, it's a source of money, let's just go with it. And they provide some of the older DC content, even if it's not all the big things. So hopefully they come out with that. But that's all I'm gonna say today. Thank you guys for joining me here on Comic Confab. If there's any suggestions on what direction to go with the channel, I'm always open to listen. But just keep in mind, I do want to keep it towards reading comic books, not telling you guys about comic books, because I think I want to mainly talk to people that actually have read the comic books, not people that have just watched something on YouTube, which is completely fine. I watch like all the comic book YouTube channels, but I'm talking about specific issue, like issue to issue. I wanna kind of talk about the actual books instead of just having a overall understanding of a character or some specific thing. So yeah, so if you guys are interested in reaching out to me, just go ahead and you could tweet me at Comic Confab on Twitter, and same thing goes for Instagram. And then you could always reach out to me in the comments. I read all the comments. So thank you for joining me here today, and have a great rest of the weekend. All right, bye.